What is up, my frisky felines? I got another Riftbound video coming at you today. Today we're going to do something, I think, a little special, a little bit fun. I have made a website, and I want to show you guys exactly what I'm going to do in this website. We're going to compare some products on this website, and basically just take a look at it. Let me make my camera a little bit smaller. I know I'm cute, but you're going to have to be looking at the screen on this one. So let's jump into the Runeterra Vault. Look at a little bit of Riftbound. I have Pokemon One Piece in here as well. So this is a pretty cool list I have going. What this website is for compiling data that allows me to track the products that I want to track more specifically outside of something like TCG Player or something like that. This gives me a lot of additional information that I'm not getting from TCG Player. And I do plan on expanding on this website and adding basically anything and everything that I could want. And if I get interest from people, say 20, 30 people, I can actually domain this and make this something that's accessible for everybody. So let me know if you're interested. I would love to do that, but I'm not going to do it unless, like, you know, there's at least a small amount of, people that think that that would be a good idea. So let me know what you think. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at it. This I really like. So right here I have our movers and trends, and this right here I can like ballpark the value of cards in a certain range that I want to see the biggest movers and the biggest losers in that range. So if I come something to like Flash here, and this is pulling this information from both price charting and TCG Player and creating a conglomerate. Somebody at some point paid $55 for a Flash. That is crazy. But I actually remember that time frame. I think this was just such a valuable card, even though it's funny. I mean, it's definitely not a bad card, but so just watching price predictions, we can see off a cliff. But I'm actually curious of something. Let's reduce the time down to 30 days so things can become a little bit more accurate. It's interesting. We'll get better prices pretty soon on cards like this. We're seeing huge gains and losses. I'll create a 7-day window so we can see, like, within the last 7 days what's kind of hit that spike down or up. But this is kind of cool. Biggest drawdown, most volatile, most valuable. That's interesting. This most valuable is an interesting one as well. It kind of shows us what has the highest price tags on pricecharting.com. And interestingly enough, it's saying Kaisa has the lowest, but from the data that I've seen, it actually seems to be that the lowest is, or Kaisa is the highest, but it seems to be Ari that's actually the highest in terms of value in that. Here we got sealed product zone. Oh, and then you can view the whole set. You can check out the prices for all of this stuff. So virtually, this is just me trying to show off the website and kind of what you can do with it. It's kind of in a rudimentary state, but we're working on it. We're trying to get it to a better place. So one thing that I wanted to do, let's go in here and let's make a price comparison. So I have Aurelia Fervent, and this is a card that I think is really interesting. So I want to compare this card historically. I really like this. Oh, and I can index them and I can save them. It looks like you can only compare 6 cards on here. But one thing I'm curious of... Oh, it's just so small. It looks like it tracks 0 in comparison. 975, 10... So this is kind of what I thought. I'm looking at the exact same card, but in a different treatment, and I wanted to compare whether or not that these prices tracked together. So for instance, as Aurelia Fervent alt art increases, Aurelia and Fervent signature theoretically would go up and go down and vice versa. So it would be like the market pressure is pushing those specific cards in a certain direction. But what this tells me right off the bat is that what we're seeing is probably price movement based off of the rarity of the card. So in an investor focused point of view, as opposed to a gameplay focused point of view. Some of the increases we've seen in this card and some of the relevancy of this card and why it's expensive are because of its gameplay relevancy. But it's interesting to see that the rarity of a card and the artwork of the card does seem to have more significant play into the price trending of the card for the more expensive ones. Obviously, like, some people might buy it to play it, but that's not going to be super common. Let's jump over to sealed products and let's take a look at this. So, really, actually, I think until I get this all totally worked out, we probably are better off looking at the value of sealed product on something like tcgplayer.com. So outside of the website, I'm really glad I was able to show it to you guys. Very cool. I've got all the sets. I'm going to continue to expand upon this. The second that Vendetta is out, I'll be able to import all of the singles and it'll be ready to go. And into the future, this only gets better as I've compiled more information. I've been able to work on, the graphs, the ability to compare better, the ability to, interpret information from this page better. So this is kind of just my rudimentary rough draft, but something I wanted to show you guys. And, any ideas you have, any improvements, let me know. I'm going to steal them. I will give you 0 credit. I will introduce it into my program, and I will benefit off of it. So thank you. Back over to tcgplayer.com. Let's look at some of the... I just want to do a little bit of like a market update. Let's go through some of these products. Some of the products that I like to look at regularly is I like to look at the trending of Origin's booster display case. This is kind of, in my opinion, this is like the blue chip product of Riftbound for one specific reason. There might be a set in the future, like, who knows, Radiance just radiates fucking aura. I'm not sure. We don't know yet. But what we do know is that Origins is the first. There's no changing that. So, like, it has this distinct position in society that will never change no matter what happens. And that's not the case for a set like, say, Spirit Forge or Unleash or Vendetta, where the changing of the time, suddenly, let's say we get a new Ultimate Rare that just completely makes Baron Nashor look like a gooner, then we're not going to have a huge amount of respect for Baron as a chase card and value placed into it, things like that. So it's like, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but one thing we do know is that Origins will always be the first. Can't change that shit. So there's value in that on its own. And the value is represented pretty dramatically on these charts. So it's interesting. I was following this all kind of as it was happening. I jumped in myself probably sometime around mid-February. And so I was looking at prices around here. And I saw the precipitous increase. And so one thing that's really, really clear here, checking out the sell-through data, is that when supply hits the market, which seems to be very intermittent, a lot of supply is hitting the market of these boxes. They are flooding the market, and then it entirely, completely stagnates. So there's nothing else hitting the market, it seems like, for this whole entire period of time. It's not like Pokemon where you have this slow drip and everybody's getting a box every whatever. And obviously that's not the case. But with Pokemon, they've split the allocations up to be, 2 or 3 waves. So we would see these little bumpsters here going here, 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 and here, whatever it is. So it's interesting to me. It seems like when one of these drops happens, when you see all of this volume, all of this sell-through, that's probably the time to buy with these, these larger, more, pack-heavy boxes. Really, next time I see a massive candle on this, I'm going to take a look at it, and I'm going to think about what I'm going to do with it. But, back to what we were talking about, it seems like we are on the verge, on the literal verge of attaining a new high for this product, which is wonderful. And we look at, nobody is even willing to sell it below a new high. So the market is telling us Origins is ready to go up. That might not be the case. I'm trying to look at shipping included. Can I see historical data? I feel like I've been able to see historical data before. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing historical data now. Interesting. That's fine. But either way, it's interesting to see that you can't come on TCG Player and expect to buy one of these for market price, which is kind of a trend that we've seen across a lot of the different products in Riftbound. It's currently a seller's market. I do want to look at this, the Riftbound bundle. This is something that we talked about in a previous video. It's just interesting to see where the original products, like where the original promos are going. This reminds me a lot of the Arcane box, but one thing that I think is kind of like very, very true and very, very relevant is like this World's 2025 box While it is a piece of art, that looks very cool. I would love to have this on display. I do not have one of these. I would love to have one of these on display. While it looks very cool, it contains one promo that I do think is interesting, but kind of lackluster and not very unique. It just looks like an alt art. You're basically buying at this point, $1,350 alt art Teemo, making it one of the most expensive cards in Riftbound. But the truth is, I guess in terms of pop, it should, whatever. But it's just interesting. I think this is kind of overpriced compared to something like, say, the Arcane box, which has 6 unique foil treatment promos. That the reality of the situation is, like, you're overnumbered, have unique foiling. They look really, really cool. The foiling kind of matches the aesthetics of the card and, like, the shape of the body and stuff like that. So you have holographic on the body, and behind it it's more matte. And so it creates this, like, texturing. But those Arcane cards, every single one of them has its own unique texturing pattern. For instance, Jinx has, like, little skull and crossbones and little, like, Mausers. I think that's what it's called. Little Mausers behind her and shit like that. And then, like, Heimerdinger he looks like the dude from, what is that movie? The Hangover, when there's all those little symbols shooting behind his head, like fucking pi symbols and stuff and equations. They all have their own foiling that is, like, very, very unique to them and way, way more interesting than that Teemo card. And there's 6 of them. So in terms of, like, where I think the price charting goes with this, I believe that we see the value of this and the value of this product do a 180, flip on each other, because there's no reason why something like this, these beautiful artworks, they really are genuinely very cool, is cheaper than that other Teemo bundle. I do understand that the box is very unique. I do understand that it's something that, they're both limited, though. It's not like this is going to happen again. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts on that. Let's jump on over to the Spirit Forge booster display case. We're going to go through all the sets. We're going to take a look at them. We're seeing a similar thing, but not nearly the same sort of upside as Origins. Origins is so much more volatile than this. It's really interesting to see. And market price is market price for this. So Spirit Forge doesn't have nearly the same sort of premium that Origins currently has, which is good to see. I mean, I think that, after taking a look at the cards inside Origins, it's not not Spirit Forged. After taking a look at the cards inside Spirit Forged, let's scroll down to the overnumbereds. It's not as powerful as I had previously thought. I do think that there are extreme highs in this set. All right, here we are. And I can tell this value isn't right. Who knows? But so going through this list, there is extreme highs in this. I think that Vayne, Aphelios, Aurelia, Ari, and I personally think Bard, Teemo, set. I really like this art style, but these legends, these two-tone legends, while being interesting, I feel like just fell short. Like, I feel like the artists kind of just got shafted into, like, what they were allowed to do and what they were, like, what was available for them. And you can tell via the prices. Like, look at the prices on these cards. They're not crazy. The only one that's holding any value really is the Blade Dancer Aurelia. And that makes perfect sense because, like, it's currently, at least as far as the results that I've been seeing in the regional qualifiers and stuff, it's like, are we going to see Aurelia versus Aurelia or Aurelia versus Aurelia? So this is, like, a very powerful card that when you choose a friendly unit, you may exhaust me and pay blah, blah, blah to ready it. That is very powerful. That keeps your Aurelia, your chosen champion, alive, which is a very, very powerful unit and gives her plus might. It's just strong. It's just a very strong ability. The other two-tone legends, not as good. And really looking through this, the legends that came out in this set, we've seen a tiny bit of Orange success. We've seen a tiny bit of Rek'Sai success. Sivir is probably the best Aurora deck, but nobody likes that. Everybody hates that. At least in my opinion, everything that I've known, everybody hates that. Azir and Aurelia. These are the two that have kind of been a standout. I think Ezreal received a little bit of play early on, but I think that that's completely and totally fallen off. So we're really looking at these two carrying this set in terms of, meta value. Obviously, the collector value still exists, but in terms of meta value, it's all right there. But it still is interesting to see that it is not trending anywhere at all like Origins, while we are seeing the exact same spikes in volume. So we're seeing that it has had two like very distinct releases here in February, and then once again like early June, early July, I suppose, something like that. But so yeah, we've seen these two spikes in both of these card sets, and we're not seeing the same sort of price charting inside Spirit Forged, which I think makes sense because, as we just went over, it is not the first set, and it is not a strong set in terms of like legend collectability, in my opinion. Both gameplay and artwork. The units are beautiful. Yeah, we get it. Fucking love them. Yeah, whatever. Moving on. So this one's interesting to me. I would have expected Vendetta to be higher at this point in time. It's still on pre-sale, and there is a million arguments to make which one of these sets is going to be better in the long run. I think that Unleashed has a couple things going for it, but I think that Vendetta, after seeing some of these, I did a pre-riff the other day. I got Shen. Shen kind of was whack. I went 1 and 2, but it felt like I was going to win them all. I had 7 points racked up in both of my 2 losses. In one of them, my Shen chosen champion got killed on the third turn with some like challenge ability by a Jace that was ready +2 might. It was rough. All I got to say is like I felt like Shen was weak. But back into it, I think the Vendetta is going to be way better than we kind of previously, or I previously expected, just because the artwork is just, it's beautiful. And the gameplay, the cards feel pretty powerful. So let's take a look at Unleashed. Wow, is this the Spirit Forged? Is this the Spirit Forged graph? How interesting. And I think the interesting thing that I'm seeing is we are seeing these 2 waves on every one of these sets, but it's just more spread out on every single one of them. So this, we have our first wave May, and we see that second wave at the exact same time in July. So let's go back over to Spirit Forge. I just want to see if I'm correct on this and how I'm feeling about this. So first one was February at release, and then the exact same time in July. Interesting. How do we feel about Origins? October, May, and July. This is weird. So it seems like there was a big release of Origins, and then there was a big release of Spirit Forged, and then at around the exact same time they released Unleashed, or they released Unleashed. The exact same time that they released Unleashed. At the exact same time they released Unleashed, they had a huge influx of Origins boxes, a huge influx of Spirit Forge boxes, and then it looks like they did it all again at the beginning of July, which didn't really coincide with anything besides like a hype cycle. It seemed like it coincided pretty closely with the announcement to the T1 promo that's coming out. So I guess like it was like a hype cycle attack, or I mean it's probably just them producing cards to try to hit demand. But at the end of the day, like we are seeing these distinct points in time in which there's a flood of these boxes, and it makes me wonder. Maybe now, since we've seen one at the very beginning of July, we're not going to see one anytime soon. So May, June, July, we might see someone, I don't know, August? A man can dream, right? When the actual promo box for T1 comes out, maybe that's when they try to hit that hype cycle again and try to have these boxes selling for just astronomical values. We're not even seeing a huge amount of items listed. Current quantity 25. Yeah, there's not a crazy amount on here, so. But, okay, so let's check out the pre-sales of Vendetta. This one I'm very curious about, because during Vendetta's pre-sale phase is when we saw the boom. And I thought that it would be a lot, there's the boom, boys. Or wait, no, so July. Yeah, actually, there is the boom. So the pre-sale happened. The second that it went on sale, dropped like a rock to around $700. And at that exact same time, basically, is when they made their T1 announcement. And we saw this boom up, right? Very cool. I actually want to see if we have the Vendetta cards listed yet. We've got to start to have some of them, right? Not really. I don't want to get too deep into it here, but I did see some of these cards in the show, or in the show. I pulled this one. That was pretty cool. Shuriken flip. But my buddy pulled this one right here, Kali Deadly Weapon. Very freaking beautiful. I'm a little worried about some of these alt arts, though. If you guys are aware of the value of alt arts and other sets, They don't hold the same kind of value that you'd expect. It's not like a illustration rare from Pokemon or something that one of the smaller hits can still hold like $100 price tag. They just seem to be too common, even though, like I said, I feel like the art in this set popped the F off. This card looks insane, and it's just a foil treatment. Like, obviously, the card itself is cool. Like, that's a cool Akali card. I can't really tell what skin that is, but... Oh, I bet you it's Star Guardian. A little Starstruck. But it's very, 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 very cool looking. So, yeah, I'm not sure which I think that this set, now after seeing everything's in play, I think it's a better set than, say, like Spirit Forged. So, I mean, if it's obvious, or I mean, it's not obvious at all, I think that right now is kind of like a hate cycle for me in Spirit Forged, right? And the boxes are trending pretty similarly. We're seeing some good numbers for the boxes. The boxes trend similarly to the cases. It's pretty much the same graph, a little bit less volatile, which is interesting to see. Seems like it's a little bit more metered. Goes down a little slower, goes up a little bit slower, but that's fine. That's totally fine. Really, I think that's all we wanted to do today is just take a look at some of the booster boxes, take a look at my sealed pressure gauge. I'll rename it. Let's call it the Runeterra Vault, actually. That's a much better name for it. Yeah, so that's about it. I just wanted to show you guys this website. Let me know if there's any interest. Remember the giveaway, and then, other than that, stay frisky.